Hello and welcome to Thursday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. I am delighted, over the moon, to be joined by Record Sport's version of the Neville brothers, Scott McDermott and Ross Pilcher. Scott, how's it going?
I'm not bad. As long as I'm Gary and Ross is fine.
Ross, how's it going?
I was fine until I got compared to old Fizzer Neville there, but we'll need to take it.
Listen, some of the comparisons I get in the comment section in here, I'll take Phil Neville all day long. Pilch, obviously you're a Hearts expert, I would dare to say, so I want to get stuck into Hearts, but say that for a little bit later on, because this is our last show, Scott, before the big showdown dead rubber on Sunday at Ibrox.
The big one that doesn't mean it.
I still think it's going to be an absolute cracker of a game. I think it's going to be one of those mad 3-3, 4 each games or something.
Could well be. I mean, we said that the other night. The games have actually been pretty open, loads of goals. Recently both teams just get out and try to win it, and you're right, you get that kind of vibe again. Celtic going there as champions, nothing to lose. Even with Rangers having won the last two, Barry, the season's obviously over for them. Might be Barry Ferguson's last derby. We're pretty sure it probably will be his last derby as Rangers manager. So he'll want to get with a bang as well. So for being a dead rubber, it should actually be a decent watch.
Well, actually, on that, I might as well start with this. Andy writes in saying, "I'd like to know if anyone thinks a victory on Sunday could still see Ferguson given the Rangers job permanently this summer." What do you think, Scott?
I can't see it, Daniel. I can't see it. I think the results that he's had, Fenerbahce away and Celtic away were obviously the two standout results. And at that point, he had the Rangers fans eating out the palm of his hand. And if you asked a lot of them then, they would have went, "Oh, maybe this might be the answer here." But they can't win a league game at Ibrox. I mean, they've lost too many points still, even since Barry's come in. The vibe you're getting for fans, certainly online, is that no, thanks for stepping in, but no, we need a new manager in the summer. So listen, it'd be great for him to say 2 Old Firm games, 2 wins, one at home, one away. But will it get him the job permanently? I don't think so. I mean, we said off air, I mean, if there is a slim chance, it might be that, if the Americans come in, depending on when the takeover gets over the line, if for some reason they are up against it time-wise, they cannot get the guy in that they want, and maybe when they look around the club and look at the whole kind of environment, the culture at the club, whatever, if they think it's going to take them longer than expected, they might, in a small chance, they might say, "Look, we could do with just somebody in for a year, steady the ship, let us go on with work behind the scenes before we kick the whole thing into motion." Maybe they would look at Barry and say, "Look, would you do it for this season?" But I can't see it. The fact that Kevin Thelwell's already in the door, pretty early, sporting director, has been appointed. The takeover seems to be gathering a wee bit of pace finally now, obviously with the Americans over the other day at Ibrox. It seems to be that things are moving now, and you'd obviously expect a new manager. And I think you said if they do go over the line with the takeover, they'll want to make some kind of statement with a new manager and get the fans immediately on side. And I don't at the moment, I don't think that will be Barry Ferguson.
I get, obviously, Rangers didn't win a game in April. I think it's 4 wins and 10 that Ferguson's got. And as you say, Scott, not being able to win a game at Ibrox, that's pretty important if you're the Rangers manager. But Pilch, I still don't think it's that outlandish that he could maybe be given a year. Given, as Scott says, the Rangers' new owners could have a lot of decisions to make. They might just go, "Do you know what? Year rolling contract." Actually, as I'm saying this, I'm actually doubting myself. But how do you see it?
I've got to agree with Scotty on that one. If he'd then be going into everyone knowing that he's not the guy they really want, let's be honest.
Yeah, a good point.
even they look at his record since, the takeover story broke. If they're then saying, right, stay for a year, it's because they've got no other options. Everyone's going to know that. He's then having to, do much better than he's doing already.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteeing he's going to get the year if he ends up many points behind Celtic. I just can't see it. He's not done enough. And even if they couldn't get their number one target this summer, I reckon they'll have maybe other guys on a list ahead of Barry Ferguson and that they go to first. I just don't see how that would work. He'd kind of be going in as I don't know what to say, but as a dead man walking to some extent, knowing that he's not probably going to get long term. He's not the first choice, and he's going to have to be outstanding to, one, make it work, and two, give himself a chance of staying there longer than a year. I just don't see how that's an idea that's going to sit well with guys who are paying money to come in and want to put their stamp on the club.
It would also mess with any potential recruitment policy for the new regime, because how do you say to Barry Ferguson, right, you're in for a year and we'll see how it goes? I mean, Barry Ferguson will have a specific type of player that he would want to bring in, but that might be completely different to the guy that they're going to appoint in a year. Aye. So listen, that can't happen. I mean, the thing we've been banging on about with Rangers, for the last couple of years now is there's no alignment, there's no clear strategy, there's nothing joined up behind the scenes. That's the whole point of the takeover, and especially appointing a sporting director, is that suddenly everything becomes aligned for the top of the club to the bottom, and that means the sporting director and the manager have to be on exactly the same page. So I think it would be difficult to say to Barry, look, right, tell us who you want. We'll try and get a few players in. He'll have a specific style, like an identity to the players that he wants to work with. But then another guy comes in, either halfway through the season or in the summer, and you need to completely change it again. It just can't work.
Aye. We've got a couple of comments coming in. Gianni points out the only thing about Barry you can say anyway is it's not his players and so on, so you can't go fully at him in general as the players are dunderheads. He also writes in, Gianni, saying that's good, another show without Keith, a breath of fresh air. Spot on, Gianni. Absolutely.
Is he in the huff? No getting his awards in, is that?
He's on. He's been given a free transfer.
I huff at not getting any pizzas off Gianni, so he can just send them to us.
I was going to say that. This one here, Alistair Ramage, he says, hopefully Tavernier will be chased out, doesn't get anywhere near a testimonial. A disgrace to Glasgow Rangers. I mean, I think he gets treated so poorly, Tavernier. Not the greatest player in the world, but he gets absolutely abused at times. I mean, that's mad.
Yeah, disgrace is very harsh. I mean,
Aye.
You can say what you like about Tavernier, and I probably think this season should be his last at Rangers. But I mean, when you think they signed him for what, 200 grand, 250 grand, you think the goals,
Aye.
the assists, the availability. I mean, he's there all the time. He's so robust. He's been a brilliant. You need to say whatever you say about trophies. Should have won more. Should have done more. He's been a brilliant servant to Rangers for what they paid for him. Whether he'll get a testimonial, I'm not sure, because he does split opinion with a lot of supporters. But
surely he's got to get a testimonial, no?
I don't know. I mean, you would think so. I mean, it has been on the cards. People's been talking about it for the last kind of year or so. It's just as harsh as it sounds, Daniel. I mean, how much appetite will there be?
I know. There is a lot of Rangers fans that don't fancy him.
Aye, I mean, there's no getting away from it. It's not a criticism of James Tavernier specifically, but he's been captain for domestically at least a very poor spell in their history when it comes to trophies and silverware. But listen, he's a guy that was a captain, the guy that stopped 10 in a row, got 55, led them to a European final. So there's arguments both ways. Maybe he deserves that kind of send off for that reward for 10 years service. Listen, he's a good guy. He's been a brilliant player for them. But what will happen in the next few months with him is going to be really interesting.
Aye, you can see on your screen there, Dr. James Elliott writes in, Tav has dragged this Rangers team with him. He deserves better players around him. Must get a testimonial. Blue Nose John says, just a shame that we weren't able to surround Tav with better quality players during his time at the club. And Singing the Blues says, a Tav testimonial versus Leeds. would be ideal. I didn't actually mean to talk about James Tavernier there, but we'll roll on. Pilch, before the show, I asked Scott to compile his predicted Rangers team for the weekend, and I think we can maybe see it on the screen now. Again, it was me that did the graphics, so I can take some stick if the midfield lines up a wee bit differently. But is there anyone in there that you guys think won't be in there? I mean, Gamani maybe Pilch, or I don't know who else.
Yeah, he'd maybe be the one that might come in, but there's, in terms of, you look at how Rangers have done this season, Barry Ferguson, he seems to know what works in these games, so I don't see any kind of major changes. I think Scotty's pretty much spot on there. Bailey Rice, maybe he was a wee bit overawed in some of the games he's been in. Other games he's been fine. You look at how he played at Old Trafford, so he might thrive in this sort of game, especially at Ibrox. So no, I don't think Scotty's going to be too far off there at all.
I just think with Rice, Ross, I mean, it'd be a big call, obviously, to put him in for his first Old Firm start, but I just get the impression with the season being over for Rangers, Barry Ferguson kind of knowing he's probably not going to be there next season. He obviously started him in Paisley last week against St Mirren. By all accounts, he did okay in midfield. I just think Barry might think, you know what, if this is going to be my last few games, I at least want to say that I kind of bloodied that one of the young players and gave him a chance. And it would be a brilliant experience for Bailey Rice, and it will help him, you would think, going forward to actually go and sample an Old Firm game and to see how he does in it. So, listen, I mean, that lineup there is just what I think it might be. I mean, there is guys, Eagleman, Connor Barron, Yanis Hadji maybe pushing to try and get in. There's different kind of variations that Ferguson could go with, but I just think if Balogun's fit, obviously I've put Balogun in. If he's fit, I'd expect him to come back in. I'd be surprised if he went with a back four, even though the game's at Ibrox. I think he'll go with back five again, which obviously worked at Celtic Park last time. And I think he'll just try and get Czerny and Diomande around Dessers up front, causing problems. As you see, Gaman is a contender to start, but he does always seem to trust Dessers to start, and then maybe look at Eagleman coming off the bench. So I don't think that'll be too far away.
What about? I mean, we mentioned it could be Ferguson's last game in the dugout, Scott, but it could be a lot of those players' last games. I mean, Czerny's obviously on loan. You'd imagine a lot of players are going to go in the summer. I mean, last opportunity for players to show that they are capable of playing for Rangers.
Yeah, well, I mean, Balogun's out of contract, so don't expect him to stay on. Czerny, as you say, due to go back to his parent club, that's still up in the air whether Rangers will be able to push the boat out and try and sign him. And you're right, with a new regime expected to come in, there could be massive changes at Rangers in the summer. And that's why we've been saying for a few weeks now, these players are effectively fighting for their future at Rangers. If they want to be part of this kind of new dawn, if you like, then they're going to have to play better than they have been the last few weeks. Because I don't think there's off the top of me, I don't think there's anyone, maybe Raskin apart, who you could say, if you were new owners coming in or a potential new manager coming in, you're thinking, right, definitely want him to be part of it. Even guys like John Souttar, I mean, John Souttar's normally one of the guys you can rely on, one of the most consistent performers for Rangers, but he was poor last week against St Mirren, really poor. And I think I'm right. I think he's only got a year left. There's been a lot of talk about him maybe getting a new contract. So that's another thing that's up in there. So you're right. I think for a good few of these guys, it could be the last Old Firm game.
Aye. Going across to Celtic, it was me again that picked this predicted lineup. So, abuse me if you want in the comment section. Pilch, I went with Ida through the middle, Maeda out left. I do appreciate that James Forrest has come back into contention, but I do think that it'll be Ida that starts, and Paul writes in saying, this is Ida's last chance for me. Don't be fooled by his 18 goals this season. He needs a really big display at Ibrox to show he's the long-term striker and needs to put in a performance that looks like he cares. It's not asking too much. I do think it is. It could be quite a big day for Ida if he can put in a good performance.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget he has scored at Ibrox before in that 3-3 game, the moral victory, as it was.
Very true.
I wouldn't go as far as saying it's his last chance, but he does need to. I think he does need to show a bit more, especially when he's been in from the start. he's not at Desser's level. You know, he's had a lot of criticism, missing so many chances to maybe score one goal. He kind of seems like if it keeps going this way for him, he might end up in that territory. I don't think he's anywhere near it just now, but he does, especially for the money Celtic laid out for him, he does need to start showing a bit more. But also, I don't think anyone expected Dyson Maeda to kind of go through the middle and his form to just rocket. He has been the main man through there. They've not really missed Kyogo. I think that's the biggest compliment you can play Dyson Maeda. It might be a game that suits Adam Ida. As Scotty said, John Souttar's not been great the last few weeks. If he thinks he can maybe get a wee bit of joy out of him, I know it doesn't mean anything in terms of league, but the last two defeats will stick in Brendan Rodgers' craw. He'll want to make a bit of a statement here, and I think Ida being the man to lead the line, you know, there's going to be pressure on him to go and show us what you can do. Go and show us you can do it against, you know, the bigger opposition, against the games you're expected to go and make the difference. So I wouldn't say it's his last chance, but he could do himself a massive favour going into next season if he produces the goods. You know, you saw him score the winner in the cup final when he was on loan. Another moment like that he's maybe crying out for that just to give his confidence a bit of a boost.
A wee boost, and just as to kind of show how much he splits opinion, Mark writes in saying, Ida's Milgran used to say, I wouldn't give him whose room. I don't even know what that means. I assume it's not complimentary. Sam McGowan says Ida will shine. I think he gets a bad deal from the fans. I guess we'll see. Time's getting away.
I think it's a big day for him, Daniel, and I agree with your team. I think he will start. I think Ida obviously gives them a totally different dimension though compared to when Maeda plays up. But if you think how the game might go, I'm assuming, you don't know, but I would expect Rangers to try and press Celtic early and press them high, you know, get in their faces, put them under pressure. And Celtic, what they didn't do well enough in the last game, or the last couple of games, was at times Celtic just need to go a wee bit longer and a wee bit more direct just to escape that press and get out. And Ida, when he's at his best, is ideal for that. No, he's done it. You've seen him doing it. He was actually really good at it at Tannadice and last Saturday when he played up front. So that's what Celtic will need to do. If he starts, I think that could be key in the game. If Rangers go and try and press and put them under pressure, if they play Ida properly, then he could have a big afternoon for Celtic. Aye,
definitely. Time's getting away from us, but predictions, guys. You know, like putting folk in the spot. Pilch, how do you see it going at Ibrox?
I think Celtic will be up for this one. I think they might get a wee bit of revenge. I think 3-2 Celtic.
Scott?
I must say, I think Celtic will win as well, Daniel. Rangers fans will not be happy, obviously, with that. But I don't know. I just think there's a feeling about Ibrox now. I know there's a wee bit of optimism with the takeover and stuff, but in terms of this current squad, after going out of Europe, they just look like a beaten team, and I'm not sure. They've struggled at Ibrox in the games. I know they go to Parkhead and win, they go to Turkey and win, but they've struggled in games at Ibrox where they need to go and kind of take control of games and go and play. And as Ross says, Celtic will be so up for this. No, they're on a high after obviously being crowned champions, but there's that wee niggle. I mean, I've interviewed Brendan Rodgers at Tannadice, Callum McGregor during the week, and they're definitely up for this. They want to put it right because they're not happy. No, as a Celtic team, not happy at winning a title, but losing 3 times to Rangers. Just won't go down well. And Celtic fans might say, "No, it doesn't matter. It's a dead rubber. We've won the league anyway." Trust me, Celtic fans I know will be desperate to win at Ibrox because they're not happy with the last 2 defeats.
Aye, and it's never. I went way back to the 40s. I don't think it's ever been done. One side of the Old Firm's lost 3 derby matches and still win the league, so they won't. I mean, it goes without saying, they obviously won't want that little bit of history.
A Celtic fan, is that almost a wee plus you've got? It's like, he's beat us 3 times and still couldn't get near us.
That's a good point, actually. It's a good way of putting it.
Also, it shows you the failings of Rangers. I mean, if that doesn't tell you everything about Rangers, that's them in a nutshell. No, win 3 Old Firm games, take Celtic to extra time and penalties in the League Cup when they're the better team, and they still lose a treble and finish 17 points behind. I mean, it's just madness.
What was the stat you said the other day, Scott, about Motherwell and St Mirren? Was it what?
They've dropped 14 points against Motherwell and St Mirren this season.
That's mad.
It's just crazy. And again, that's out with getting beat off Hibs at home, drawing with Dundee, away from home. I think they lost to Kilmarnock away as well. I mean, it's just crazy.
Right. I want to talk about the Jambos, Hearts, and who else? Oh, sorry, who better? Who else? He was the only guy I could think. Who better than Ross Pilcher? Ross, I know you follow Hearts very closely. When we came into the start of this season, we had Jan Nanda talking about a title charge. When you saw how Rangers started the season, I really didn't think it was that far-fetched to think they could at least split the Old Firm. But nobody could have foreseen such a underwhelming, hectic season.
Yeah, everyone, that 0-0 draw against Rangers opening day, everyone thought, all right, Hearts are set for a good season. In hindsight, when you look at Rangers, you need to look at his 2 points dropped, maybe. But I was a bit wary in the summer, people talking up the recruitment. They brought in Jan Danda, brought in Blair Spittle. James Penrice has been good. But these are all guys that finished in the bottom six last season, and now look where Hearts are. Okay, if you can maybe go and cherry pick, maybe one of the best, maybe two, but it just didn't strike me as a really well thought out transfer window. They were still short up front, heavily reliant on Lauren Shankland, who has been nowhere near the Lauren Shankland he's been the last 2 seasons. I think that was always going to be a risk. More so that if he got injured, I don't think people thought if he played he'd score goals. He hasn't done it. He's been nowhere near it. And I think it's maybe shown a bit last season that his goals, he was pulling them out of the fire a lot of the time, because Hearts were, they kind of did it at Rangers a few times last year, especially against Dundee and other teams that were finding themselves 2-0 down. They'd rally, Naismith would change something, Shankland would more often not dig them out of it. That's not happened this season. And yeah, it could get worse. Can't lie, it could get worse. So Dundee, Neil Critchley paid the price for that one. If they lose on Saturday, they could be in real bother.
How did you see the Neil Critchley stuff, Pilch? Did you think it was a fair enough decision to get rid of him? Yeah. I mean, I remember sitting at Hampden, we're doing a Scotland game back in October, not long after he got appointed. I don't know if Scotty was there, but when the boys were asking, what do you think? I didn't think he'd last the season. Seemed a nice guy, etc. I just don't think he was a good fit for Hearts. And it's proven to be the case. The warning signs were there kind of around Christmas. There was a bit of improvement when he came in, but the bar was so low. He couldn't really not get better. You'd been really worried if it didn't. But the run up to Christmas, they got put out of Europe by Petro Cub when they should have gone through. They were the lowest ranked team in the competition. All you need to do is beat them. They're part-time from Moldova. That was a major blot in his copybook. I forgot about
they
that.
Went to Kilmarnock, played against Kilmarnock with 10 men for more than 90 minutes and lost 1-0. That was a shocker. Lost at home to Hibs for the first time in 5 years. Not many Hearts managers will get much leeway if they're going to lose derbies, especially at home. And then the game after that, they've gone up to Ross County, 2-0 up in stoppage time and didn't win the game. I think he was very, very lucky there's a transfer window about to open, because I think he would have been under serious pressure then. And since then, he got them into the top six. They had 2 opportunities to do it and they blew it. You can't really describe it any other way. And it's too many games of consequence that he's lost. And as a result of that, they're in the bottom 6. Okay, a win, they should be okay, but that's made these games much more significant than they should have been. And you didn't see where the wins were coming from under Critchley. And I think the writing had been on the wall for a while. I felt Hearts could have done it after the semi-final. Me and Scott covered that game. Even with 11 men, they weren't great. You could see what his plan was to try and get through that match. It nearly worked, but nearly taking Aberdeen to penalties isn't really an argument to keep your job. And then I think last week was just the reason the board needed, and I don't think you can have too many complaints.
Aye. We've had some comments sent in about this as well. Davey says, I actually feel bad for Neil Critchley. Definitely wasn't the right man, but he should never have been chosen in the first place. Is this supercomputer a ZX Spectrum or what? It's a fair question, I think. Billy writes in though, and this brings us to obviously the inevitable who's going to replace Critchley. I'd have Derek McInnes at Tiny in a heartbeat, not the prettiest football, but he'd make us hard to beat and an absolute nightmare to play against. He'd make us competitive again. I think we can see the odds actually for the next Hearts manager as well. Derek McInnes is the evens favourite. I mean, even Robbie Nielsen's in there. Stephen Robinson as well. Pilch, is any of those names strike you as the man to make Hearts great again?
I can see the argument for Derek McInnes, purely based on the circumstances Hearts are in just now. They should be third, fourth, fighting for European places, going deep in the cups. Derek McInnes, he's been there with Aberdeen. It went a bit stale at the end, but he knows what it takes at a club where there's expectation. He knows how to build a squad, and he knows what's needed in this league. That's maybe something Hearts have been missing a bit. He might not be the most exciting, but it's exciting what Hearts need right now. I think they need to get back to their kind of base level of where Robbie Neilson had them. I don't think it's going to be Robbie Neilson. I'm a big Robbie Neilson fan. You look at his record, he's easily the best Hearts manager they've had since Anne Budge came in. He's won 2 championships when he was asked to. He's never finished lower than third in a full season, and he only got sacked after maybe a six game bad run. They slipped to fourth, got rid of him to try and finish third, and they didn't do that anyway. So I thought he was harshly treated. I don't think it is going to be him. I wouldn't be against it. I could see the argument for him against somebody like Stephen Robinson. Not knocking what Stephen Robinson done with St Mirren. 3 years in the top 6 is a good achievement, but that's, you've seen the celebrations at St Mirren. That's a bonus. Maybe it's getting away from a bonus now because they're doing it consistently, but that's a bare minimum somewhere at Hearts. So the floor at Hearts is higher, if that makes sense.
I see what you mean.
And if you're going to look at somebody like Stephen Robinson, then I think, as unpopular as it would be, Neilson would be the head of him, but I think McInnes would probably tick more boxes. Kim Hellberg's on there. I think he was linked last time, although Swansea City made an approach for him the other week and were knocked back, so he might be out of Hearts' reach. And you need to take into account what Hearts are going to be able to afford. These I saw Mick talking about sexy scandies on the show last night, which I hope he's not been Googling on his reach PLC. But,
he knows all about sexy scandies.
I was going to say, he almost certainly has.
Yeah, but these guys are probably more expensive than you think. And Hearts have got the foundation of Hearts cash coming in, but they're not going to have European money next year. They're missing out on the league place, their competition prize money for the league placings. So it's not as if they can just go out and spend whatever they want to get whoever they want. My understanding is that they're not ruling anyone out, but the preference this time might be for a domestic-based candidate. Whether they can go and get Derek McInnes, I don't think that would happen before the end of the season. I don't think Kilmarnock would sanction that in the summer. Maybe we'll see, but there's a strong argument for it. I can see why it would make sense.
The other one, Pilch, the name that Keith Jackson brought up, I think it was on Sunday's show, was that it was his understanding that Stephen Presley was quite keen on coming in. I don't know if he meant for a kind of Sam Allardyce role to the end of the season, but he's got a bit of baggage with Hearts, doesn't he? I mean, would he be welcomed back at Tynecastle?
Listen, there's some Hearts fans that recognise he was a good captain for the club, don't have a problem. Some are indifferent. A few still do not like him for the old chest thumping. I know Keith said they had a connection with the Hearts fans. For a lot of them, it's not really a good one these days. I'm sure he would be keen to come back up, but I don't see. He's been out the management for a wee bit. He's got a nice cushy job at Brentford, and I don't think Hearts are going to appoint anyone before the end of the season, especially if it's a domestic candidate. I think it's likely it's going to be Liam Fox. If he gets some, the points he needs, and they're not worrying about getting dragged into this fight for 11th properly, maybe, but I think it's more likely in the summer. But I'd be surprised if Stephen Presley was in the running.
Green Machine says Scott Brown. Can you see that happening somehow? We can look actually at the fixtures for the weekend. Hearts, Scott are away to Ross County. I mean, that looks like a really, really tricky game.
I know, massive game. You've got to feel for Liam Fox getting thrown in at this stage of the season when they're desperately need to get points to stay clear of that relegation playoff. I agree with mostly everything that Ross said there. The only thing I'd add to it is, and he'll know better than me, I just think Hearts need a big personality as a manager. I just think they're a massive club. In Scottish terms, a demanding crowd, there's pressure, there's expectation. And I don't think Neil Critchley handled that well. I mean, again, a really nice guy, and I enjoyed interviewing him a few times that we did. I don't doubt he's a very good coach, but a bit like Ross, when he came in, I just thought, is he really a Hearts manager? Is that really what that crowd need? I think if you're talking about Derek McInnes, then he ticks a lot of those boxes. So he would be a decent fit. The only other thing I was going to say, and I'm purely playing devil's advocate here, but I'm interested to know what Ross says about it, is you look at what's happened with David Gray at Hibs. Hibs sticking by him when it looked as if he was like one game away, one Rocky Bashiri goal away maybe for getting the sack. I mean, when you look back now, could they have stuck with Naismith? Could it have turned round eventually, or do you think it just went past the point of no return?
I think, given how bad the start was, Hearts' worst ever start to certainly a Premiership season, possibly a top flight season, I think they'd come to a point where they had to make that decision. Had they kept Stephen Naismith, I was thinking about this all day, would he have ultimately ended up doing any worse than Neil Critchley? I don't know. He at least had a bit of a track record and a bit of credit in the bank from the previous season. He used it up pretty quickly. I think in hindsight, you could have maybe said, okay, let's stick with him. Hibs must have seen something in David Gray or some sort of evidence. I don't think they were too far away from picking up points in the games they went winning at the start of the season. I think with Hearts, it started okay and it just didn't look like it was going to get better. So they had to pull the trigger. It's an interesting one. I think the chances are probably maybe would have done about as well as Neil Critchley did. I guess we'll never know.
Aye. Well, I think we can see the bottom six table going into the game at the weekend. And look, I think Hearts, you look at that, they're probably, one win away from safety. But until they get that one, Pouch, it's pretty nerve-wracking.
Exactly. They were 1 win away for the top six, didn't get it. And you go back to the season Hibs went down, I think from about February onwards under Terry Butcher, they only need one win. Never came.
That's right. That's a good point, aye.
They ended up in the playoff and locked, first Premiership team to lose it. So it's all very well saying, they just need 3 points. Do they look like getting the 3 points? For what it's worth, I think they will they'll do enough to stay away from 11th. I think the other teams below them will cut each other's throats. I saw Jacko taking about 6 minutes to go through his predicted results to finally get to the point where Hearts finish 11. I'm not saying it can't happen. If they don't win on Saturday, I think if they lose on Saturday, they're in deep trouble of it. I'd be surprised if they finish there, but they need to get a win on the board quick.
What do you think, Scott? Do you think they'll do enough to avoid 11th?
I think they probably will. But just like Ross is saying there, I mean, before last week, I would have said, look, they'll be fine. They'll win a game, win a couple of games. But that Dundee game at home is a shocker. I mean, Jacko actually flagged it up on the hotline.
I did predict it.
Saying it was precarious, and I just thought, no, at Tynecastle, I mean, at home to Dundee, knowing you need to get a result, I was amazed by that scoreline and the performance for Hearts. But I suppose, follows on for the performance at Fir Park when they had to go and try and get the win to get top six. It wasn't the fact that they couldn't get the victory. It was the standard of performance was so poor, and that's just carried on. So that does worry me. Ross County, I suppose have been decent at home this season. I mean, it's no the easiest place to go and get a result. But I think ultimately they'll probably just manage it. I'm not sure where they'll get the points. It might be other teams cutting each other up, but I think they'll just about escape it. They should be fine.
We've got a couple of more comments coming in on it. Green Machine says, can Hearts afford Alex Neil? Well, it's Millwall he's at, isn't it? I don't think he's
never going to go to a championship club and get him away from there.
Knowing Hearts, it will be Craig Levine, says Craigie. I mean, that would be box office.
Craigie would say that.
Exactly. This one, though, in fact, sorry, I'll say this one first. Singing the Blues say, if Hearts get this one right, they could finish second behind Rangers next season. I mean, that is very optimistic, I would say. 1967 CSC says, McInnes, Robinson, Nielsen, Martin, blah, blah, blah. Lazy journalism, lazy chat. There's better coaches and managers in the big world than they three for every job. Well, give us a few then.
He's right. Guys like Neil Critchley who can't do the job.
Exactly. Aye, hit us up 1967. Let us know. The only thing that I've got to finish on, guys, Pouch, your prediction for Ross County versus Hearts at the weekend. Will Liam Fox and the Jambos get the 3 points they need?
Look, it's going to be pretty, but I think they might just have enough. To be fair, when Liam Fox came in the last time, didn't always get the results, but especially away at Aberdeen, they played really well until they went down to 10 men late on, and he got the first win away in Europe. There was enough of a bounce. He changed things just enough that they kind of got what they needed. I think they might just maybe a 2-1.
Scott, how do you see it going?
I think it might be a draw. I think they'll get something out of it. which might prove to be enough. But I mean, it'll be a sticky game. To say, feel for Liam Fox, big pressure. But as Ross says, if he kind of tinkers with it and maybe just does enough to get them some kind of positive result, then it should be enough for them.
Sorry, very last thing, guys. The fixtures for the weekend: St Mirren at home to Aberdeen, and it's also Hibs versus Dundee United. How do you see the race for third finishing up? Who's going to take it?
Interesting. I mean, tough to call. Now I'm going to St Mirren Aberdeen on Saturday, so I'm looking forward to that. I've got a feeling Aberdeen might nick it. They might. I don't know. It just seemed to be. Jimmy Tilline's obviously turned it around again. A massive boost for them getting to the cup final. He seems to no stumbled upon it, but they've got a kind of settled lineup again. You kind of know the defence has calmed down a wee bit, bit of consistency and selection. Look, Hibs have been brilliant coming from where they've been at the start of the season to be challenging for third. Be fascinating the next couple of weeks, but I don't know. I've just got a feeling Aberdeen might nick it.
What do you think, Ross? Aberdeen above the Highways?
I kind of got that feeling after the one at Hampden. They seem to have got momentum back at the right time, especially beating Hibs last week. That was a huge one for them. There's a flip side. Hibs, that long run has come to an end probably just at the worst time. Hibs Dundee United should be a good game. Dundee United will be a difficult nut to crack. I think it could change and swap between now and I think it might go at the last game. I've got a wee sneaky feeling for Aberdeen. I think Dundee United might have a big say in it, actually. I think they could, depending on how they get on against Hibs and the Dons, they might they might sneak back it. They're not too far away themselves, but I think it's going to just be the Dons.
It's mad because it feels like just as everybody started talking about David Gray for potential manager of the year, and he's one of the contenders. He's on the shortlist for PFA Scotland manager of the year. He then loses that game against Aberdeen, and suddenly you're looking at it thinking, if Aberdeen finish third here and they've got to a Scottish Cup final,
maybe Jimmy won it.
Why is Jimmy Tilline not in there?
Hibs could finish fifth. The flip side is Hibs could finish third and Aberdeen beat Celtic. And that's in taking group stage football, so there's so many permutations.
That's true.
And the thing about Hibs, and I really like David Gray, and I think I'm glad the club stuck with him, and he's done a great job, obviously, getting them back up there. But if you'd have said at the start of the season, where will Hibs finish, you'd have probably said third, fourth, fifth, between third and fifth. So it's not as if they've totally exceeded all expectations. It's just because they've had this brilliant run.
It was such a good recovery from a pretty poor start.
There was a point in the season when you actually thought they could go down here. They could actually get relegated.
And that's why people are talking about him, as a potential manager of the year because of this. But with Tilline, it's almost like the opposite. You in your mind, you think, but can it be Tilline because they went 13 games without a win or whatever it was? That a horrendous run is obviously going against them. Probably around the time when people were voting for a manager of the year. But as I say, Scottish Cup final, finishing third, your first season in Scotland compared to where Aberdeen were last season.
Aye.
You could argue he'd probably deserve a mention more than David Gray.
It's a very fair shout. Guys, I think that brings to the end of Thursday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. Thank you so much for all the comments sent in. We really appreciate it. If you want to get involved in the conversation following Sunday's game at Ibrox, we'll be back, but this time at 3 o'clock rather than our usual 6 p.m. kickoff. We'll be here at 3 p.m. So we hope you can join us then. Ross, Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, Daniel.
Thanks very much, guys. And thanks for watching at home. Hope you can join us Sunday. Cheers.